There certainly is a great new world of media, and I think on balance, if you truly did add up all the information and all the media that's out there now, this is some kind of golden age. There are many problems with that, though. One of them is that you first have to ask about the health of a democracy, not what's out there, but what are people actually consuming. We all talk about the proliferation of new media, but if you ask people, and surveys have done this year after year for the last 30 years, if you ask people what is the number one source you turn to for news about politics and public affairs, the answer is not their newspapers, not the network news, not the cable channels that are news channels, not their friends, not their families. The answer is local TV news. Depending on the survey, something like 50 to 75% of the country says that's their number one source of news. And at the same time, we also know from studies all through those years that the proportion of those shows which are airing news, hard news, political news, has fallen pretty much into the cellar. But that's where people go. It's one thing to say, well, out there, there's all this great new stuff. It's like saying, yeah, there are libraries out there too. But if most people believe that, say, there are ghosts, or that the Earth was created 5,000 years ago, there are real problems. The reason that the administration was able to convince people that Saddam Hussein was behind 9/11, and the fact that the fraction of the country that still believes that is so high, and the fact that most school kids in America can't find our big cities or oceans on a map, that isn't mitigated by the fact that there's an encyclopedia sitting over in the corner that if you went to it, you could learn a lot. One of the interesting exceptions has to do with fake news, comedy news. There have been many studies done asking people kind of current events quiz questions. And one of the most interesting ones correlated the quality of answers on those current events quizzes. How many people got more than 3/4 of the questions right, for example, with what they said is their primary source of information. And in one of those studies, the group that had the highest number of correct answers said their number one source for news was people who turned to The Daily Show as number one. And the group that had the worst set of answers on that quiz said that their number one source of news is local TV news, which is, of course, the number one source for most Americans. Media reform has been way undercovered, and it's no shock that that's the case. It's kind of a miracle that over the past few years, millions of letters and emails and calls have been generated in order to promote media reform and diversity and fight the consolidation of power. And I think the only reason that that's happened is because of the internet allowing people to do organizing. The newspapers haven't covered it because they don't want restrictions on their ability to cross-own television stations. The television stations don't cover it because it's not in their interest to do so. And so it's only scruffy, independent, streetwise activists who are using new tools like YouTube and blogging and the other miracles of the World Wide Web. It's only because of those that media reform has become a topic. And I think one of the most interesting features of the Guild strike as it plays out is going to be to ask what impact did new technology have on the ability of the Guild to get its message out. one potential analogy, at least on the upside, is to look at the immigration debate in this country, in which in recent years we've seen Spanish language radio, which used to operate completely under the radar, being able to turn out on May Day a couple of years ago millions of people across the country wearing white to go on a march, even though most people who were consumers of mainstream media had no idea that was going on. On the other hand, for every Spanish language radio station that was mobilizing its base, there was a Lou Dobbs mobilizing his base on cable news. So the question is, what happens now? Is the Internet able to provide an alternative channel sufficient to spread this message and be able to enable the Guild to get its message out in a form which is not muddied by the efforts of the studios on their side to control, own, and throw sand in the umpire's face?